Okay, thank you, gentlemen, ladies, and coaches, and all for joining us tonight. I'm Mike Zarnowski. I'm the VP of Sports for Special Olympics Maryland. We truly appreciate everything you're doing for Special Olympics and everything you'll do in the upcoming season. We're really excited. Basketball is really getting back to the same numbers and such, actually even beyond the numbers that we've had in the past. As we're going through the first couple slides here are just reminders that of the plunge, which is an exceptional fundraiser for Special Olympics Maryland and for our areas. Many area programs have their own plunge teams. Sorry, I had a little alarm there. Have their own plunge teams and can raise a good chunk of change there. So if you are so inclined, we hope you are, to come and jump in the cold waters of the Chesapeake Bay, you can do so and raise money for your area programs. So with that said, Steve, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and it is all you.
All right. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. And as Mike said, hopefully everyone is here in regards to the 2024 basketball preseason webinar. Again, my name is Steve Bennett, Senior Director of Sports and Competition at the State Office. We also have Keith Lampel, our head official, who's been with us for many years, not just basketball, softball, and some other events throughout the year. Also has been involved with USA Games, National Invitational Tournaments, World Games, etc. He may hit on some of the rules. Also do want to acknowledge one of our other members of our basketball sports management team, Jack Burke, a inductee into the Hall of Fame for the Howard County Parks and Recreation, or Recreation and Parks, I should say. I know a lot of that had to do with his many years involvement with Howard County and Special Olympics. So congratulations, Mr. Burke, a Hall of Fame member. With that being said, we also want to acknowledge Melissa Anger and all the hard work that she does for basketball. I think many of you, if not all of you, know her. Unfortunately, she's unable to join us this evening, so I'm sorry to say that you have to put up with me, and hopefully I don't mess anything up too bad. But again, as Mike said, we definitely recognize all of you coaches. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening to spend with us. Hopefully you'll find the webinar valuable with some good information and good content. The purpose of this webinar is to go over the season of the sport of basketball, not just concentrating on the state competition, but a lot of good information. We may address a few things for the state competition, but mostly this is for you coaches to prepare for your upcoming season in the sport of basketball. So with that, again, if you have any questions, Mike Zarnowski will be our producer this evening, so he will be monitoring any questions that come in through the chat function. At the end, if you could stay muted, I think we have about 100 people who are on tonight. So to keep things flowing, at the end, we will raise it up or open it up for questions. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and Mike will address those as we go forward. Again, all of this information will be posted on our coaches resource page in the next couple of days, as well as being sent out to you with some additional information. Some of the forms you'll see with the assessment forms and things of that nature will also be sent to you along with the recording of this webinar. So just want to make sure you don't have to frantically scribble anything down, as you will get all this information, and it will also be posted on our website. So some things we're going to go over tonight is registration dates and other important dates for the upcoming season. As I mentioned, the assessment forms, the team assessments, individual score forms, individual skills competition forms. We'll go over the dates for the upcoming coaches trainings for the sport specific training sessions for head coaches. Go over some competition information in regards to the season and the upcoming qualifiers. Some information with our college engagement with some of the clinics and other coaches trainings. Like I said, Keith can hit on some of the rules. Then we'll go over the coach requirements and other volunteers within the area programs requirements. And then a lot of information is at the end of the slide deck for your reference purposes. It shows you the athlete medical forms, the incident report forms, the codes of conduct, things of that nature. So, as we always note, one of the first slides with any preseason webinar is no one can participate in a special program without the current certifications and paperwork in place. No exceptions to that. And we'll go over what those requirements and certifications and paperwork is. But, for the athletes, it's primarily their medical form and registration, as well as the CDW or the communicable disease waiver. And then all of the other different levels of certifications and trainings that other volunteers, teammates, and coaches need in order to be part of the program and in good standing. And there's no exceptions to this, guys and ladies. Make sure you have all your paperwork in place before anyone starts or shows up to a training program. So as we talked about it, one of the things to make sure all your paperwork's in place is work with your area or county leadership. They have information. They are the ones who initially will receive all of that paperwork, either from you or from the individuals. They'll make sure everything's ready to go. Then they'll submit it to us at the state office through our process there. So you can always check with your area leadership. Hey, here's the people on my team. Here's the volunteers who are helping out. What paperwork needs to be done, or is there anything that we need to collect before they're able to come and participate at a training or a practice? So that's just basically to make sure that everyone's we're in compliance and for the health and safety of the athletes and everyone else involved. But again, just work with your area leadership prior to your first practice and make sure that everyone has the appropriate documentation and things needed in place before they're able to come to one of those sessions. So for coaches' requirements and other information, again, there's several slides that'll hit on this, but you'll see here the bullet points, but there's one or two additional slides I think are better visualization, at least for me. But know that this is here for your reference, but it's basically your volunteer screening, protective behaviors, concussion, the CDW or communicable disease waiver, coaching Special Olympics athletes training course or CSOA. And then if you are a coach who only is doing a unified coaching, you can take the Coaching Unified Sports in place of the CSOA or the Coaching Special Olympics athletes. Both courses are wonderful and have good information, but just want to make you aware of that. So here is kind of one of the breakdowns. Exactly, you can see across the top the different individuals that would be helping out at a training or a practice or throughout the season. And below that, what is needed for each. So we talked about the athletes with the medical and the CDW, unified teammates, and general other volunteers. Basically just add the protective behaviors course. And then with any sport volunteers, you add the concussion course. With any assistant coaches, again, the assistant coach sports certification is that Coaching Special Olympics athlete course that will take you to that level. And then for a head coach, the head coach certification is the additional sports-specific training for basketball. So again, you can reference this, check with your area leadership, and make sure everything's in place. Here is another form that it may be better visualization for others. That's the same information here, ladies and gentlemen. But this is courtesy of Janet Larimore from Howard County, put this nice slide together, and we found it very helpful in the past. So you'll see here the same thing we just went over on the previous slides. The one addition to that is the advanced coach. You'll see at the very end the principles of coaching course. It's a very nice course, very good content, very good information. That is not required in Special Olympics Maryland at the state level. What the advanced coach is that's for coaches who either want to continue their education. It's a great course. But anyone who wants to coach anything above the state level, meaning a national invitational tournament, a USA Games, or a World Games. So that's where that comes into play. But again, I highly encourage you if you want to take that course. It's like I said, got a lot of good content, and it would definitely not be a waste of time. So here is when we get to the dates of everything upcoming for this season. So the training registration deadline, you can see there, January 4th is when that is due. What the training registration deadline is that is for making sure that you have everyone who you're aware of, who has current paperwork and everything else, who is training or practicing within your program. Okay. So that doesn't necessarily mean they're coming to state level competition. It's anybody who's practicing should be entered into GMS or a games management system through your area leadership. And you'll see these dates here. Like I mentioned, January 4th is the deadline for that to be completed. That's our deadline for the area leadership. So you'll see that check with your leadership. They will normally need that a week or two in advance of this deadline to make sure that they can check everything and get everything input. So the other thing is, if there is somebody who moves into the state or has an interest to participate in basketball, but they come after that January 4th timeline, they can still practice and you can still enter them into training. Just know that they're not eligible to move on and play throughout at the state level championships. So again, they can join late and practice and train, enjoy the sport, enjoy the education of the sport, engage with their fellow teammates and friends. They just won't be able to move on to the state championship. So all those forms we talked about, the CDW, the medical forms, the coach certifications, all of that. We know sometimes things happen, and once we get all of the information and we go through everything, if we notice that there is information missing or for some reason got missed in snail mail or email or whatever the situation is, January 22nd is the last date to get any missing paperwork in. That doesn't mean start collecting it. That means in case something got missed or overlooked. And we will notify you guys as coaches and area leadership. You can also look on our coaches resource page for some of that information. But just know that there is that deadline as well in case something gets missed. The big thing here is team rosters and team assessments are due to Melissa Anger by January 31st. That should say 2024, not 2023. Sorry, I just caught that. So again, we'll talk about those assessment forms and the team rosters and how that process gets input into our games management system or our data, our database. But again, it's not necessarily having every athlete run through all the skill stations. You as a coach, if you know your athletes, you know their skill level, and you can fill out those team assessment scores and forms. So on the 5th of February, that's the registration deadline. Okay. What that is for everyone who plans on coming to the state championships must be entered into the state championships within our games management system. And that is through your area leadership. And everyone needs to have what events they're in. There are some exceptions here. The basketball full teams, 3v3, 5v5, etc. Melissa Anger will enter those teams into GMS at the state office based on your team assessment and team rosters. So nothing can be changed after that. Though the one caveat, if you will, if you are a coach with individual skills athletes, you or your county leadership need to make sure that your skills athletes are entered within your area. That will not be done at the state level. And also indicate which events they're in, the level 1 or level 2 skill stations for basketball individual skills competition. But again, work with the area leadership. They have these registration and deadline dates. Make sure that you have everything that they need in order to be ready for the season in your team. So we talk about our coaches resource page a lot. If you haven't checked it out, here are some links, and you'll get these links sent out with the slide deck. Really good resource. A lot of information's there. And again, you can look on that page to see who has what forms, what's missing, that kind of thing. And they're searchable formats with that. So this is just another avenue to make sure that you're aware of. You can check for updates. That's where Melissa Anger will post. The team rosters, the form for that, the assessments, and other information as we move throughout the season. That coach's resource page is open to the general public. It's designed to help with coaches, but anybody can go in there and look, family members, friends, whatever, just to get a look at what's coming up for the season. So we talked about the team assessment form. I think many of you are aware of this, but just to go over it, if we have some new coaches and maybe a refresher for others, the team assessment form is basically to look at each individual on your team and what their ability level is, and then to give a rating for what their skill set is with different things such as shooting, passing, dribbling, that type of thing. So that team assessment form is what Melissa Anger and the management team uses to help look for compatible matches between teams. Hey, these guys look from the team assessment form that they're a good match based on their skill level, at least what's been reported. And then we get out to the match play or the game play and see if those assessment forms and that they actually do match what we're seeing on the court. So again, that just helps to get the games throughout the season and confirm what we think is the case, and then used for divisioning as we lead up to the state championships and the required qualifiers. Basically, take some time, and when you're filling out these forms, and you'll see the ratings of 1, 2, 3, 4. When we get to the actual form, we'll talk about it. But one of the things I do want to mention is just because your best player doesn't mean that if you have you have a best player or 1 or 2 top players on your team, that doesn't necessarily mean that they rate the highest on the form. Okay. Say 5 is the top level for a skill set. Your best player may be a 3. So we've had that over the years where a lot of coaches indicate that, well, this is my best player, so they're a 5. Not necessarily. There's some descriptors there on that form, but really take some time to look at that before you really assess your athletes so that you know what you're looking for. Once these team assessment forms are submitted, that establishes who's on that roster for that one given team. At that point, no changes to the rosters can take place, okay? And again, we talked about the deadline for that. That's January 31st. So, and that's where Melissa Anger will take those rosters and she will enter them into the games management system at the state office. So here's the assessment form for the teams. So you can see you've got the name, age, whether they're an athlete or a unified teammate, the ball handling, passing, movement, game awareness, shooting, rebounding, etc. So again, and when Melissa sends out the forms to you guys to start filling them out, she'll give a little descriptor on exactly how she wants these back. Typically, she'll send out a spreadsheet, and you want that in the spreadsheet return, so it's easily for her to manipulate and copy and paste things into the system. Here is the descriptors we were talking about. So the previous slide shows the individuals, and you list them and you put their ratings down. This is where I was talking about. So if you look at ball handling as an example, the score is a 5 if they have the ability to beat the defender regularly and with either hand, and limited infractions with double dribbling or losing the ball. So somebody who's pretty adept in dribbling and moving around would be a 5. If somebody just has the ability to go either direction on the dribble and maybe travels or walks a little bit or double dribbles on occasion, that's a 3. So again, really take the time to look at these 6 or 7 different assessment stations, if you will, and record the athlete's ability to your best knowledge based on those descriptors. For those coaches who are doing individual skills, a similar form that will be sent to Melissa Anger. And again, we'll talk about those skill stations, but within the rules. But again, it's a very similar form as far as name, age, gender, then level 1 or level 2 of what they're doing and what they've done on a score for the complete round. And then are they planning on attending the state championships or not? That's a cross-reference that we can, if we have the ability to do, we will try to match up with what's in the GMS system and then what was versus what was submitted on these skill sessions. Because again, the area program is the one who will enter the individual skills athletes and people into the system. This is another form we've created. It's a chance for coaches to give some input and give some feedback in regards to games that you've played with against other teams. And this is another resource that the committee will use to look at where the good matchups are. So, you can have some of these and send them in to Melissa, but it's basically just asking, hey, what team are you? What's the contact information? What was the date of the competition and the location, so we know where it was and can follow up with that if need be. But then, hey, were you missing any players? Were they impact players? And then, was it a good match? What was the score? That's what we're looking at under those comments. Again, this is not a requirement, but it is a piece of information where coaches to have input and feedback to help us assess the teams moving throughout the season, to say, hey, we were excellent matchup with this team, and this team blew our socks off. So it's just another avenue to gather information. So here are the upcoming, most of these are tentative. We're still confirming many of these, but as we get those confirmations, Melissa Anger will send it out and also update the coaches resource page. But you can see we have many opportunities here. We're looking for more, the more the better. But the competition play starts as early as February 3rd and then goes through late March. But again, you can look at this at your leisure. But again, we want to thank Howard County once again for taking the lead on a lot of the league play and offering many opportunities for teams to go in. On the far right-hand side, you can see who you need to contact to register for those events, most of which is Melissa Anger currently, except for the individual skills competition. That's Levon Smith. You can see down on March 15th or March 17th. So again, a lot of good information. We're still looking for more. So if you are able to host a qualifying event or a competition and you have some teams to play, go ahead and submit that to Melissa Anger, and she'll get back to you and see if we can get that work and make sure everything's in place. Here are the required qualifiers. So these are the ones that every team must go to with everyone on their roster. So you can see there's two that are tentative, but the 10th of March is the required qualifier for all 5v5 unified teams. That's in Westminster at McDaniel. So again, all 5v5 unified teams must attend with the full roster on the 10th of March. The 16th of March is the required qualifier for the 3v3 traditional and PDU, or player development, in Ellicott City. Again, that's tentative, but we think that date is going to be what works. Same thing there. Everybody's got to be there. The 17th is the required for 5v5 PDU. And then the 17th is the 5v5 traditional. Okay. So again, you'll have these slides sent out so you can mark your calendars and follow up with any of the tentative dates. For coaches trainings, so these are the ones, if you remember back when we were talking about what the certifications and requirements to be a head coach are, and we talked about you have to have a sport-specific training in the sport of basketball. These are the ones that Melissa and her team have put together so far to this date. So you can see we have one as early as the 29th of November with assessment drills. And if you're struggling, or if you're new, or you really want to get some more direction and information regarding those team assessments forms, that's one where that will be gone over and taken a big look at, and can give you some more details and examples of what a 3 is, what a 5 is, that type of thing. Then you can see December 9th, December 10th for the different levels, 3v3, 5v5, and then some basics and strength and conditioning and strength training on the 16th. And then one we're looking at in early January at Washington College with the basketball clinic there with the team from Washington College. So you can sign up using the link down there in the bottom. Again, this will be sent out to you to which trainings you're able to make it to or have a desire to attend. So in order to qualify for the state basketball championships, again, we talked about for the teams, you have to go to those required qualifiers as well as 2 others. And again, that's with the full team roster. And communicate with Melissa Anger. If there's an individual who's not going to be able to make a qualifier, just so she's aware, if there's somebody who can't make one of those required qualifiers, you can submit an exemption request based on the information that you're aware of to see if that individual will be excused or not excused from missing a required qualifier. Over the years, we've had a few that have been granted, but it's definitely not guaranteed that any exemption request will be approved. For individual skills, basically you're looking for 2 competition opportunities for your individual skills athletes. One of those can be an in-house, and what an in-house qualifying event means is basically you're turning a practice into a simulated competition component for those individual skills athletes and get their scores and put them in that environment of, let's pretend that this is the state championship, and give them that experience to go through that. The other one is one where you saw on the screen previously, the individual skills required qualifier, or the opportunity to go to that. That's where there's more than one county program participating. Again, just because we may not know of something, the more games you have, the better for your athletes to get in that headset or that mindset, if you will, of getting that competitive experience. The more competitive opportunities they have, the better we've seen they perform at the state level and at the other qualifiers. So divisioning, it's definitely not a perfect science, especially with team scores and matching up teams. But the team assessment form is one thing we use. The other one is that feedback from coaches about your games that you've played. But there is a team that Melissa Anger coordinates with coaches and others from the management team for basketball to look at all the season and the results and the assessments, etc., to create the divisions for the state championship. So that's going to be on March 28th. If you have an interest in being on that divisioning committee, it will be in the evening on that evening. It's going to be in the evening on March 28th. And that's where there's a lot of conversation and a lot of paperwork looking through, but it's really creating the best matchups and a fair and competitive experience for the athletes and the teams. If you have an interest, depending on how many interest levels we get, you can sign up on this link and let Melissa know that you're interested in being a part of that team. Usually takes about 2 hours, and we do provide dinner for you on that evening. So Mike, before I go on, I wanted to see if there's any questions that are a good stopping point to address at this point, or we'll go right into the rules.
Thanks for checking. The questions we've had so far were of a technical Zoom nature, let's say.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And I appreciate those questions because I'm not the most technology savvy person. So we'll get right into the rules.
Actually, pause. I'm sorry. There, one just came in. Question about the January 4th registration deadline. Don't remember ever seeing that in prior years. We don't even start practice until the 5th. So the training registration deadline, I don't remember what the dates were, but actually that's been there for 12 years at least. So sorry that's not sounding familiar to you. Jay, connect with Melissa offline. There is, in some exceptional situations, opportunity to give a day or two. At that point, the main thing is being able to know who's on your roster. So It actually, if you haven't had your practice yet, that's still feasible to turn it in on the 4th because you'll know who's coming. But if there's a particular situation there, connect with Melissa, and she may be able to make a slight adjustment, but it's only going to be a day or two. So hope that helps.
Thank you, Mike. And then Keith, I may call on you to hit a couple of these rule slides, but I'm going to take on a few of these at the beginning, if that's cool. Keith, you still on?
I haven't fallen asleep yet. I'm here.
Okay, good deal. Appreciate it, Keith. So want to talk about 3v3 player development. Just so you guys all know, Special Olympics Maryland did go through an exercise with an athlete who uses a medically or an assistive device from a physical standpoint. And we did assess that situation from a safety perspective, and it was approved. So with that, moving forward, we want to let everyone know that if you have any athletes who may be in a similar situation that uses a device to help their stability or their physical ability to be on a team for 3v3 PDU only, you'll need to let Special Olympics Maryland know through Melissa Anger, and on a case-by-case basis, they will assess that with the management team and make a decision whether or not that individual and whatever device they may use could be approved for continued participation in 3v3. Again, it's only in 3v3 PDU. So you can see at the bottom of the page here some of the assisted devices that could be permittable in those situations. So again, it's on a case-by-case basis. But again, if you have somebody in that situation, you just need to let Melissa Anger know as soon as possible, and that team will review it and then inform you of what the decision is moving forward. So individual skills, we talked about that a little bit again. Big emphasis there that the area program leadership will enter everybody into the GMS, and again, level 1 or level 2. We talked about sending your sheet into Melissa Anger, again, with that individual skills form with their scores as well as their name, and again, level 1 or 2. Teams, we talked about that. You guys will send your rosters in and the team assessments. Melissa Anger will enter those into GMS at the state level. So again, once that team assessment is submitted on January 31st, that's the final roster. No changes after that date. So here's just a few things on a grid. You can see it's basically 3v3 traditional and PDU in one column, and the 5v5 games in the other column. So the minimum roster for 3v3 teams and the maximum rosters is 5 to 8 players on 3v3. Okay, minimum of 5, maximum of 8. For the game time in 3v3, it'll be 2 12-minute halves with a 2-minute halftime. And then it's a running clock except the last minute of each half. Okay. There are 2 timeouts per team per game for 3v3, and the coin flip for possession at the beginning of the game. For 5v5, minimum of 8 players, maximum of 12. You'll have 2 18-minute halves with a 5-minute halftime. And I should have said in the 3v3, there are no foul shots. Okay. In 5v5, we will do foul shots. It will be a running clock throughout the game, except for the first foul shot and the last 2 minutes in each half. For the foul shots, once the clock stops for the first foul shot, once the athlete receives the ball to shoot the second foul shot, the clock starts running again, unless it's in the last 2 minutes of regulation or the first half. Okay. PDU will not have foul shots, but just wanted to give you those reminders. For 5v5 timeouts, you get 2 per half per team, and they don't carry over from half to half. And to start the game, there's the jump ball. So additional rule reminder, and one of the things I'll go back to this is in the 3v3, and it's mentioned later on in one of the slides, but You may notice some differences from the Special Olympics international rules of basketball for 3v3 versus what we do here in Maryland, where we have the game time. As an example, in the rules for Special Olympics, I think it's the first 1 to 20 points wins, something to that effect. Working with our management team, which is allowable, we at Special Olympics Maryland made some adaptations to those rules. So if you're looking at Special Olympics rules and say, well, what's Maryland doing here? We have had permission to make some of those slight modifications. So with that, Keith, if you're comfortable, I'm going to hand it over to you, and I'll just shut up for a little bit.
That'll be a first. Okay. So I'll just say a couple things. First, if you were a coach at the state games for this past year, I would like to tender my thanks and gratitude. We had a lot of new officials, and like everyone else, getting officials to cover your games has been a challenge. And almost everyone that I've talked to had a great time. So I'm hoping that these individuals will help us out during the season. And I would think that most of them, if not all of them, will come back for the state games, since the state games are in April and way after high school basketball is over in Maryland. So to the rules, I usually work with Melissa prior to the season. Just Steve, can you go back one slide? So with foul shots, I'm assuming that they will have foul shots in the state games. I can't guarantee because I haven't talked to Melissa, but in the past year or two, sometimes we're sort of running behind schedule, or we have so many teams at these qualifiers that we've haven't had foul shots. But if we do have foul shots, this is what we're going to be following. So once again, it depends, and I'm not the person to make that ultimate decision, but it depends on how many teams are at a particular qualifier, and if there are any time restrictions or restraints, we may not be shooting foul shots in any of these games at some of the qualifiers. But then once again, it may just depend on, it may be, that decision may be made at the time of these qualifiers. Next slide. All right. 3v3 traditional. All right. You could read there aren't any fouls recorded, and I don't believe any person could foul out. All right. However, us referees, if we ask you, coach, can you give us a sub? All right, you should be well aware that we would ask these things if there's a necessity for you to talk to that player, if for whatever reason they get out of control. So, please work with us and calm your athlete down, and when they're ready to come back in, then bring them back in. I've been doing this for like, what, 25 years, this state. I asked you for substitutions. I don't remember. I only ejected one player in my 25 years. I don't see any issues with forfeits. All right.
Keith, before you go on, this is Mike. We had a question here. When can we sub players outside of a timeout? That's just on any dead ball, or is there other restrictions?
Dead ball. Change of possession after a basket. What I ask you to do is, just raise your hand and yell out sub, and bring them in. All right. So what's giving me gray hair is the time that it takes you folks to get your sub in and who's subbing. All right. So you be cognizant of who you're subbing for, so that when you bring the sub in, you call out or whatever you need to do to get the person who's being subbed off the floor. All right. I can't tell you how much time has been wasted it is a running clock. All right. So be cognizant that you want to bring people in and you need to get people off. Clear as mud? Great. Throw in. So Special Olympics on the basketball court will have an X, probably at the top of where the 3-point above the free throw line is. All right. Can the player move? We always give them latitude. All right. So in your practice with 3-on-3, just make your players when they're on defense, they can't go north of the 3-point line extended until the ball has been released.
Yeah, and the foul line extended. Yep.
Oh, foul line. What'd I say?
3.1.
Okay. Just see if you're still awake. All right.
Yeah.
So the foul line. All right. And what we try to do is we try to help out and just keep those players back. All right. And so the team that's throwing it in, the players could be anywhere. All right. And so there's always sometimes a challenge to get the ball in. And don't be surprised if we try to get one of the offensive players north of the foul line. All right. Person throwing the ball in has 5 seconds. You'll be happy to know that I can only count up to 3. All right. And yeah, person throwing the ball in cannot shoot. So change of possession. So there isn't, the only place they take the ball out is at that X that's on the 3-point line north of the foul line. All right. So anytime there's a change of possession, that's where they take the ball out. If the ball goes out of bounds, I don't care where, that's where we're going. The ball basket is made, that's where we're going. All right. So we will try to make it as clear as possible who's getting the ball in. All right. So the issue becomes with change of possession. I don't know if you have it on the next slide. Shot. So when is the exact change of possession? So if the defense rebounds, all right, and then doesn't bring it back, and then they shoot or try to score, that's a violation. And then the other team will get the ball back at that X. All right, so we're just trying to keep it simple for the players, the coaches, and certainly for us. So anytime that you do not bring the ball back above the free throw line extended, then you risk losing the ball if you shoot. Now, a lot of people from the States were new. I will try to send out at the next states or some new people. I don't know what your coaches use. In the past, I've heard clear. I just yell out, bring it back. So just trying to get the athletes to do what they need to do. Any questions?
Don't see any yet.
Great. Can't be that simple. Okay. So pressing. I mean, everyone can read these things. All right. So in the past, there's always been some kind of confusion that, about pressing. Pressing can happen at any time, unless there's a 15-point differential. So once you get to 15, then you can't have any backcourt pressure. Once you get below 15, you go back to that. All right. So yeah, you have to realize that whatever you coaches work out between yourselves doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen. All right. Fights. All right. Most of us old timers are very cognizant of contact between opposing players. All right. Fights are just something that just doesn't belong on the basketball court. So you have to help me, or you have to help us. If you see one of your players somewhat stressed out by contact, or looks like they're going to have some type of issue, call timeout. I won't charge you. Just get the player off. All right, and just calm them down and just get a sub in. Okay. All right, halves. All right. Once again, we've had anywhere from 16 to 18 minutes, depending at qualifiers, depending on what type of time issues we have. All right. So whatever it is, it's going to run, except for the last 2 minutes. And whether we're shooting foul shots or not, then on the first foul shot, the clock will stop. That's shooting fouls. In the past with Melissa, we came up with an agreement that we're not doing one-on-one foul shots. And I'd like you to know that the high school federation rules have changed also. They're no longer doing one-on-one foul shots. So high school rules now have 5 fouls. On the 5th foul in a quarter, you're shooting 2 shots. And then when you start the second quarter, you're back to 0 fouls. So what we've done in the past at the 10th team foul, right? At the 10th team foul, we're shooting 2. So high school federation has eliminated one-on-ones. Special Olympics basketball, I think, eliminated one-on-ones last year. Never any trash talking. All right. And I've, as I said, not that I know everyone. Rarely do I have an issue with the coach. Rarely do I have an issue with players. So I think most of us have not rabbit ears, but we have ears on so that we can prevent any type of issue. Okay. So foul shots we went over. I don't care about unified teams. That's Special Olympics issues.
Yeah. Again, on the unified teams, we've had some questions. I think it was soccer, maybe leading into basketball. Just a reminder that on the court at any time, there's 3 athletes and 2 teammates. And then you can't have any more than 3 athletes on the court, nor can you have more than 2 teammates. But that ratio of 3 to 2 is in all the games. So I know there was a question with 1 or 2 coaches leading into, I think it was soccer. So
yeah. And in theory, we're the athletes and the and unified and the other players, they're should be treated the same. So
yep.
Although I give more issues to the non-Special Olympic athletes. So
gotcha.
It's just better that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want me to take some of these, Keith, or you want to keep going?
Let me just set these things. One thing.
Yep.
I love this. I really do. I don't know who came up with this at Special Olympics Maryland. So when it first started, I was pulling my hair out with these mentors. I would say last year it was great. The mentors did what they were supposed to do. All right. And the only thing I'll say about with mentors, and then Steve could go through this, is you're there to help your team. And you have to you're there also to help the other team too. We're all part of the same Special Olympic community. And what I love about Special Olympics is it's not just about winning. It's like the athletes having their time on the court to shine. So take it away, Steve.
All right, very good. Thank you, Keith. Really appreciate that. And I echo your comments there of with the player development unified model, it is basically the goal is to work with the athletes, the mentors working with the athletes to gain a knowledge of the game, gain a knowledge of the sport, and working together as a group so that they can potentially move on to 3v3 or 5v5. But
Hey, Steve, before you get into that, just one note on this also that folks may not realize. So the Player Development Unified, the PDU, that we have for basketball and for soccer as well, this is different than what you might find it described as on the Special Olympics International site. We had this set up before they kind of changed what the definition is. And this works really well for us and our athletes. And so we're maintaining it, but you may see something you will see something very different in terms of describing unified player development or player development unified if you go onto the SOI website. So don't let that confuse you. Similarly, as I think Steve mentioned, we have some different rules for 3-on-3 that we think works, 3-on-3 traditional, that works for us. So just wanted to not have people get confused if they go and look at the in the rules and they see something slightly different. Back to you, Steve.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. And again, thank you, Keith, for joining us tonight and your valued continued partnership with us and experience. So just a few things here with player development. What you'll see is if a team gets up by 20 or more, which I'm not sure if that happened last year or not, but just from a frustration level for the team who may be down by that many points, the scoreboard will then go back to 0-0, just to eliminate future frustrations with the team that's down. But they will continue to mark the score on the score sheets at the score table. So when you start the play at one baseline and you're heading down to the other side of the court, looking for the athlete to be the one who is advancing the ball. The mentor can definitely accompany them, give them direction on the court, but we're looking for the athletes to be the ones to advance the ball down the court. And when you get down to the other side of the court and you're starting your offense, a good sequence or pace of play, if you will, is to have at least a couple passes so that the athletes can continue to develop that skill set and that knowledge of a couple passes and who they should be looking for and what position to be in to receive the pass before a shot goes up. And again, mentors are there to facilitate the game, but not really have a really impactful piece of play. So one of the things as Keith mentioned earlier, as coaches, really pay attention to your players and look for them as whether they're getting exhausted or as we talked about, you see the attitude increasing a little bit or the frustration increasing to prevent any possible injury or escalation of situations. Look for having those subs in and out. When you're inbounding the ball, again, similar to advancing the ball down the floor, we're looking for the athletes to do that with direction and guidance from the mentors. But if a situation arises, the mentor is able to do that. But again, we're looking for the athletes to be doing that facilitation of the game with guidance and direction as needed from the mentors. So with that being said, mentors do not shoot, steal the ball, play, aggressive defense, or rebound. We're looking for them to tell the athletes where to be, and again, facilitate where those athletes want to be and what's coming next to get them in the mindset of the sport of basketball. So you can see the other ones here down the line. But again, what we're looking for, as we mentioned earlier with the assisted devices, this is the one location where that may be permissible in 3v3 PDU. So coaches, we're looking for your assistants to let your players and family members of those players know that that possibility does exist. Okay, nothing else for you to do, but again, it's just from an information perspective so that if one of those situations is approved, there's not any surprises at game time. So we just want people to be aware that that situation may be in place. For 5v5.
Steve, I'm sorry, before you go on, And this may be a question for Keith, or we can check with Anger when she's back up and running. The no fast break rule, is that new for 5v5 PDU? It says this is from Cole. In the
No.
past, we've allowed fast breaks, but require at least one pass before a shot can be taken. But the one pass may eliminate the definition of a fast break anyway.
Yeah, I think, and the pass had to go from the back court to the front court. So you had to pass. You couldn't, an athlete couldn't get a rebound and just go all the way down. So there had to be one pass from the back court to the front court.
Okay.
Okay.
And then similarly, Whit was asking, and I think the answer to this is no, but is there a recommended number of passes that need to happen before scoring? Is there a minimum number by rule? I don't believe there is a rule for
No.
PDU on the number of passes.
No.
Yep. Okay,
All right.
thanks.
I got to run. I have another meeting to go to. So if you have any questions, Steve, just email me and I'll get to it.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Keith. Thanks for being here tonight.
Oh,
Thank you, Keith.
Hey, have a great season, everyone. Okay. Bye.
Okay, for 5v5 player development, one of the things, again, this is something that the basketball management team has developed and made a little switch, but there are to be 4 athletes on the court and 1 mentor. That's at on the court at all times for the 5v5 PDU team set. I think in the past it was 3 athletes and 2 mentors, but again, this gives more athletes on the court and gets them ready to possibly transition into regular 5v5. So again, 4 athletes and 1 mentor on the court, and that's what's for 5v5 PDU versus the regular, or not regular, the other non-development model, the regular 5v5 unified, which is 3 athletes and 2 partners. So again, if you're having the development model, want to make sure you're aware of that. 1 mentor and the rest of the athletes are on the court, the 4. Again, we talked about
Steve, we should also, I'm sorry, we should also note, because I don't think we touched on it and we're assuming people understand what PDU is. The PDU is definitely a development model, and with helping athletes develop the skills to make the transition. Because of that, and because of the mentor's role there, place awards are not presented to PDU teams. They all get a consistent challenge medal or challenge award for that. It looks like a gold medal. It's a little different, but that's because, again, given the influence of the mentor and the purpose of PDU, it just makes sense that way. And then that way it's not the level of influence or whatever that a mentor might have is not given disproportionate weight to, helping one team win or not. So for those who aren't familiar with it, it is, and particularly the 3v3 PDU, it is an exceptional, this is why we're keeping it the way we've got it. It's an exceptional opportunity to move some of your athletes who have been in skills up into a team environment, a team game. And in some cases, many of them may be able to then transition into the 3v3 traditional model. So for those who aren't familiar with it, we sometimes toss acronyms around and such, but just in case you're not familiar with that, but PDU, speaking as a former PDU coach, it's just an exceptional model, and we strongly encourage, if you've got a lot of athletes and skills, give some thought to this for the 3v3 PDU. Similarly, if you have a lot of athletes who are on 3v3 teams who aren't quite ready to go to a 5v5, but they could handle a full court, the 5v5 PDU is an excellent opportunity to help them with that transition. So anyhow, just thought that would be helpful to know in case folks weren't familiar with that.
Yep, no, definitely appreciate that, Mike. Thank you. Some additional rule reminders. When you look at any team, one of the things on Special Olympics is the principle of meaningful involvement. And basically what that is that every athlete on your team or every competitor on your team contributes in the game for the success of the team. Meaningful involvement is not you have one player who may have some situational stuff, but I'm not going to play that individual until the last 10 seconds, call a timeout, put him in. That way I can say everybody played. That's not what we're looking for. You want to have everybody feel a part of the team and contribute to that success of the team, and that they're a valued member of the team. So uniforms, we've gotten really better over this with this over the years. So the main thing is the matching color with the shorts and shirts or jerseys. And then if there are any undershirts or undergarments worn or whatever, everyone on the team has to wear the same color, and they need to match the uniform. Now, same thing with leggings or whatever. So it doesn't mean that if one athlete is wearing an undergarment or a t-shirt that everyone has to. What that means is if one person's wearing it and anybody else wants to wear one, they both have to have the same color and match part of the uniform. Okay. So again, many years ago, there were a lot of there was a lot of confusion with that. And over the last couple of years, it looks really good on the court, and people are adhering to that rule. So with that, wanted to see if there's any general questions. We do have a lot of other things, not a lot of things to go through, but just to share with you. I won't take but more than 2 minutes. But Mike, wanted to see if there's any general questions that have come in.
There's not another question, but there was a clarification that I was going to wait till we got through all the rules stuff. Thank you, Nancy Schmidt. Many of you know Nancy, a longtime member, frequent member of the divisioning teams and so on. She noticed that there was a discrepancy with that training registration deadline. That the training registration deadline has been there for many, again, at least 12 years. But it looks like when these slides were put together, the training registration date for winter games was put in by mistake. The actual training registration date for basketball is January 11, and we apologize for that error. Thank you, Nancy, for catching that. Appreciate it. That seems to solve at least partially Jay's situation too. But yeah, we've got so many overlapping events that I'm surprised that doesn't happen more often. But that the assessment training date, if you're talking about Emily, the date that the assessment forms need to be in, the website says Thursday, November 29th. Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking the assessment date.
No, it's the training date, and the training date says Thursday, November 29th, but the 29th is a Wednesday, not a Thursday. So is it Wednesday or is it Thursday?
That's a great question. I'll tell you what, Steve, if you can check some other questions that might be there with raised hands, I'll see if I can find a clarification on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we may just have to get back to you. I apologize if we do.
No, that's fine. Thanks.
Okay. I'm not seeing any raised hands, but give me a little bit of time here. I'm just scrolling. I see one question that came in. A new assistant coach about basketball training. Again, the sports specific training for basketball, one of the slides that had 4 or 5 different options. That's a requirement for head coaches, not necessarily assistant coaches, but you can reach out to Melissa Anger and you can look at that survey to sign up. Just because it's not a requirement of an assistant coach, that doesn't mean there's going to be that it wouldn't be a good avenue for you to go to. Again, a lot of those trainings and coaches clinics, things of that nature, have a lot of good content that could be useful for anybody that's helping out with a team, especially assistant coach, but it's just not a requirement. So I hope that answered your question, Bernard.
Right. What the baseline for an assistant coach is, the baseline requirement for all coaches is to complete Coaching Special Olympics Athletes, or CSOA, just one time, just to dispel a rumor that was floating around out there. You don't need to take CSOA every 3 years. You need to renew your certification every 3 years, and there's lots of options. But you complete CSOA, that gets you an assistant coach certification literally for every sport. Emily, to answer your question, I've confirmed on Melissa Angers, I'm sorry, calendar that that training is Wednesday, November 29th. So the slide is wrong and potentially the website is wrong, but it's definitely Wednesday, November 29th at CE Rig in Prince George's County. We'll go through and double check everything with that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Jack's asking, can we review the number of qualifiers required to participate in state games? Steve, you want to take that one?
I would need to go back to confirm, but
then okay, it's 3. So
yeah, it's 3, but one of them has to be that required qualifier.
Right. And I'm sorry, it's 3 for teams.
Yep.
For any of the teams, it's 3 qualifiers or 3 competitions, one of which needs to be the required qualifier for whichever level team you are. For individual skills, it's 2. Yep. One of which can be an in-house qualifier. The reason you can't have an in-house qualifier for a team is it's unlikely you're going to have another team that's the same ability level that they can play against within your own program. And the definition of an in-house is it's your own program. You don't have anybody else coming.
Yeah.
So hopefully that answers that for you.
And again, that minimum requirement, as we talked about, the more competitive experiences the athletes and players get, the better they're going to be prepared and have game time under their belts, if you will. So just don't look at that as a minimum. I mean, you can look at it as a minimum, but try to get more if at all feasible.
Yeah, think of it as pieces of flair and how many you want. You want more than the minimum. So for those who are familiar with Office Space. I don't see any raised hands in the list, and I think we've addressed all of the typed in questions. Okay. So why don't you go ahead with this section, and then if anybody else has any questions, we can capture them on the tail end.
Gotcha. So I'm just going to really flip through these next slides at a fast pace, but this is just so you know they're here as a reference for you. A lot of, like I said at the beginning of the evening, the codes of conduct, the forms, things of that nature. So just know they're here. If you have a question, you can go back and refer to this. Also, as I'm going through these slides here, if you notice something that is possibly incorrect on the website or the coach's resource page, please bring it to our attention. In addition, if you see something that you're looking for that's not there at all, let us know, as we're always looking to provide as much information as we can that's useful to coaches. So if you're looking for something and you can't find it, let us know, and that may be something that other coaches are looking for, and it may be beneficial to have that on the website for everyone. One of the things I do want to stop and just briefly address is, as coaches, we talk about you guys knowing your athletes, having a hard copy of their medical with you when you're traveling and going to competitions and practice and trainings in case an emergency situation arises. One of the other documents that we ask you to have with you as a coach is this first report of incident or accident. This is something that should be submitted to your area director or area leadership, and then to the state office from that point. And this is basically tracking what exactly that incident or accident is from an insurance perspective and others, and any follow-up needed. This is something that is typically and mostly used for an injury to a person. But if there is a situation where an accident or damage to property occurs, you can also use this form and put in the comments exactly what the nature of the damage of property was. So that has happened on occasion. So I just wanted to let you know about that form as well. And again, a lot of these other slides are just there for your reference. At your leisure, you can go through and look at those on your own. But again, always work with your area leadership. You can start with them to ask any questions. And also Melissa Anger can work with her management team and address any questions you have of basketball specifically. We've got a great team and a great many of you coaches have been here for a while. We appreciate your continued dedication, not only to the sport of basketball, your area local teams, the athletes and teammates and mentors. but we also acknowledge that many of you wear multiple hats within the Special Olympics community on a year-round basis with many other sports, being coaches, assistant coaches, sport volunteers, working with your area management teams or on those area management teams, parents, family members, relatives, etc., of athletes and fundraising opportunities and everything. So again, really appreciate you taking the time this evening. Melissa Anger sends her best to you, and again, apologizes she couldn't be with us tonight. Hopefully she approves of Mike, Keith, and myself providing the information that she had put together for you this evening. So Mike, I'll give you one more chance to see if there are any other questions. Otherwise, we really do appreciate everyone's time and everything you do as coaches.
Yeah, I don't see, again, any raised hands or any questions in the chat. I'm sure you'll have questions afterwards. Please do feel free to reach out to Melissa's probably going to be your primary person. Looks like Dave Surik has a question, though. Scoring for 3v3. Dave, can you clarify? If you can unmute, that's probably easiest.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, just wondering, in the past, it's been, you know, we keep scoring up throughout the game, up past 30 points, 40 points, whatever it might be. As long as it's not hang on, man. As long as it's not a 20-point lead.
Yeah, you can continue to score it just on the scoreboard. If it's more than a 20-point discrepancy between the teams, they just won't put it on the scoreboard, but they will record it at the score table on the score sheets.
Right.
And-
Yeah, saw that part, but we keep scoring all throughout the game, so it could be 30, 35 to 30 like we've had in the past.
Yeah. The
Okay.
game doesn't stop at 20 points.
And Dave, in asking that, thank you for doing that. That is one of the differences, the key differences between the rules that Maryland uses, and we think it works for us, and what the official Special Olympics rules are. For those of you who aren't familiar, the official Special Olympics rules are, as soon as a team hits 20, the game's over. Literally over. Don't continue playing, shut it down, it's done.
Yeah.
We just don't think that's a great approach. So we want our athletes to play as much time, have as much playing time as possible. So until we're forced to do otherwise, we will continue, and we don't anticipate that happening, but we will continue to do it the way that we have, just knowing if anybody goes on to a competition outside the state of Maryland, there'll be slightly different rules with that. So
Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Dave. All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, we appreciate it. We look forward to a great basketball season, and Melissa will be sending out some information to you shortly. And again, thank you so much for joining tonight.
Thank you,
thank
Steve.
you all.
Thanks, Jack. Have a good one, everyone.
You too. Thanks, Mike.
You're quite welcome.
I have to go. Thank you.